Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Auto Transport Intel. It is Wednesday. It is noon Central Time. That means it is time for DOT compliance with your DOT guy, Brian Riker. We're going to take questions. So join the live chat. Go ahead and do that. You can jump in the live chat. David at Two Bears Transportation says hello. What's going on, David? Let the stumping begin. And if you're new, what does that mean? Well, we know that we invite you to stump Brian, your DOT guy. DOT, FMCSA, MC Authority, IRP, IFTA, what have you. Give it a shot. Silvermint, who is responsible for testing upon a fatal accident? Ooh, so we have our first question, and there it is. That's how this works. Please put your questions in the live chat. If you do miss the live show, we're going to be live for 30 minutes. So here's what you can do, and I'll answer that question in a second. Please do leave a like, and then you can click share, you can click copy, you can grab that YouTube link, text it, email it, share it on social media, say, we're going to be live. These guys, your DOT guy, is going to be live for 30 minutes answering questions, so jump in the live chat. Or if you missed the show, go ahead and leave your comments below. We'll tap Brian on the shoulder on air at YourDOTGuy.com, and he will reply and get back to you. Also, you know that you can go to autotransportintel.com, click on sign up, become an ATI insider, get the email blast, talk to Ty, maybe join us on our next roundtable, which I think we're going to be. We missed a roundtable this month. We were too busy. April didn't have one either, but we do have a roundtable in June, so find out how to get on that. All right, okay. All right, so I'll tell you what, and thank you, Chris, and thank you, Carlos, and everybody for tuning in. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to jump in the live chat. Thank you, Chris. Great panel last night, man. That was an amazing show. We will talk about that for a second with Brian. And before I tune him in, Brian, do we have a thumbs up? Are we good to go? Okay, so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, your DOT guy, Brian Riker. Brian, how are you doing, man?
I am doing well, Jay. How are you?
Good, good. So, and we'll just, and you know what? Here's what we'll do, because we love our audience and they're our friends. Yeah, Ty's like, June party. Brian is testing out some more AV equipment, always dialing it in, tightening the screws. So please feel free to provide feedback. And that goes for me too. Mic check 1, 2, 3, audio.
You're sounding good, Jay.
All right, cool. All right, cool. So, oh, and Brian already replied to Silvermint. Okay, so Silvermint's question was, who is responsible for testing upon a fatal accident where there are no citations written? Brian says, go ahead, Brian.
I say the motor carrier is responsible for assuring that DOT drug and alcohol testing is completed. If it's a CDL driver, non-CDL drivers do not have a drug testing requirement. That said, it's still a best practice to collect a drug and alcohol test post-incident, just to cover your rear so that it can't be argued later that you were hiding something. So in the case of a CDL driver involved in a fatality, the motor carrier, if the test is not conducted by the law enforcement agency investigating, the motor carrier has a duty to complete that test as soon as possible after the crash, before relieving the driver from duty, and in most cases, no later than 8 hours after. There are some time extensions when the fatality was not immediately known. But if it's severe enough of a crash to be a fatality, most likely there's going to be treatment away from the scene. So it's still going to be a DOT recordable crash, and you're going to want to do the drug test anyhow.
There is the answer once again. We have it. Oh, hey, Lambo Transco. Lambo Transco is in the building. What's going on, Lambo? Do you have a question for Brian Riker, your DOT guy? Let's do this. Because we're already jumping in. Yes, we want to know Well, rather, we dare you. I bet you can't stump your DOT guy, Brian. David Double Dog dares you from his stump. Thank you, David. What else we got? Oh, how we doing? Today on today's segment of How We Doing on DOT compliance, we have a gentleman with a camper. How we doing?
Wow. He's probably a little tall going down if he went down the road with that deployed like that. Wow.
And does now, while the 3 cars get all pulled in, does he just blow by the scale like good to go?
Oh, sure. He's a recreational vehicle. Just ask him.
It's an RV, man. He says, I am doing great with my RV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last night's show was EV Transport Plug-in, and I just want to say, Chris was jumping in the live chat, and thank you for your support last night, Chris, and participation. Right, Silverman says he's doing great, very good. Sleeper berth. This guy got my sleeper berth, and my ELD is working well. I have CRAN ELD. So last night's show was pretty great. Because the panel was great. Everybody was really wow. The information that was flowing, I had no idea. I really didn't know it would be that informative. So if you missed it, feel free to tune in. You can skip to the second half, get to the panel and all the good stuff. Okay. Shipping industry pushes for law allowing 18-year-olds to drive big rigs across state lines. How we doing?
I love this one. It's actually a issue that is near and dear to my heart, and they're making a big deal out of nothing. You can already operate a Class A commercial motor vehicle in state at 18 to 20 years old. Intrastate commerce is so much more than just long haul, running cross country, hitting all 48 state trucking, that this issue affected me when I was 8. I worked as a diesel mechanic and a school bus driver, but I also had a towing company that I worked for. I was allowed to drive a school bus from my little corner of Pennsylvania down into New York City, up to Boston, Massachusetts, take athletic trips several states away, because school buses are not covered under this rule. At 18 years old, I was allowed to drive a school bus with 72 students, but I could not take my little 1-ton Chevy Riker on the weekends where I was working for a towing company and drive 8 miles to cross the Delaware River into New Jersey or New York because I'm violating federal motor carrier regulations. So I find this ridiculous. I find that the folks that are going to want to be a truck driver that are in the 18 to 20-year-old age group are probably much more mature than your average 18 to 20-year-old. So I don't see an issue with this. I'm okay if they want to put some limits on it and say you can't just run willy-nilly all across the country. But this precludes an 18-year-old from driving for Amazon because it's in furtherance of interstate commerce, even if they stay all in their hometown, or driving for UPS. So I'm all for this push to allow 18 to 20-year-olds to operate in interstate commerce. I'm even willing to agree to some of the training, supervision, apprentice style regulation and supervision, because I feel we need that in trucking anyhow. Nobody should be able to go to a CDL mill, get their license in a day or two or a week or two and call themselves a truck driver.
Man, great points. It sounds like, because I'm not well read on this topic, and it sounds like it's more just kind of red tape. I don't really understand how. It's just like I literally question everything. And another thing that I question is where did we get 21 and 18? Where do these numbers come from? Are they still relevant? Do we have laws that are getting in our own way? And if the 18-year-old, can drive around the state and, pop wheelies and work for Monster Jam, why can't they cross the state line? It's funny how, for being the United States of America, boy, we have a lot of state laws that do not work together.
Exactly. And I'm not quite sure where they drew that arbitrary line in the sand between 18 and 21, because when that rule was created, 18 was still old enough to consume alcohol. And so I really don't understand where that rule came from.
Yeah, we got some good comments in the live chat. Thank you guys so much. All right, let's go to another. Let's see, what do we got here? Go to the next one is, OOIDA rallies members against Representative Garcia's Insurance Act. Take her away.
I actually just sent some stuff out on my Facebook page about this as well. This is the same thing we talked about last week. Representative Chuy Garcia from Illinois has reintroduced his standalone Insurance Act bill that will result in a 500% increase in the minimum liability, financial responsibility carried by motor carriers. And it's aiming to raise our insurance to almost $5 million from the current $750,000 for general freight haulers and $1 million for auto transporters. This will result in putting a lot of small carriers out of business. The premiums will be out of touch. And it's bottom line, it's unnecessary. The current $750,000 limit makes whole all injured parties in all but 0.6%. So 99.4% of all crashes are settled well under the 750,000, with the average crash settling somewhere in the low five figures, so $20,000, $30,000. I don't remember off the top of my head the exact number. And if we bump it up to the $1 million that we carry as auto transporters, and most companies carry just as a good business practice, it makes whole all but 0.03% of injured parties in truck involved crashes. Not to mention, none of this does anything for safety. Just by increasing the amount of money that we hold in insurance, it's not going to make us magically drive safer. It's going to make us take funding out of replacing tires at 6:30 seconds, and now we'll run them all the way down to 4 or 2. It's going to take money out of our driver training fund. It's going to take money out of other areas in our fleet. It's just a bad idea all around. And my biggest rub with this is Representative Garcia also oversees passenger rail, and he rallied against a 10% increase in passenger rail insurance coverage that was already made into law last Congress, because it's going to be detrimental to their business and put them out of business. It's only 10%, yet he's calling for a 500% increase in the motor carrier industry. Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, that's why I love lawyers, Brian.
Yes.
I mean, wow. I mean, what did I just do there? Now I got a thousand lawyers looking at me. No, listen, everybody has their place, but when you mix legal with trucking, I know who wins.
The
Legal,
trial lawyers.
Yeah, legal versus trucking. Who wins? Okay, I already
The trial
answered it.
lawyers.
Exactly, trial lawyers. And that's the thing is that, boy, how about this? Since we're already, up the creek, we've got Lambo Transco. Okay, he says, please explain Part 40.
Sure. I know
Yeah.
what he's getting at with this one because I'm
Okay.
reading the comments. I'm
Okay.
actually sitting still in an office today where I can follow along in the live chat.
Cool.
So Part 40 and recreational marijuana. Marijuana in any form, medical or recreational, is still a prohibited substance. It's a Schedule 1, so it's prohibited federally, and therefore it's prohibited for truck drivers. Both CDL and non-CDL drivers, however, only CDL drivers have to comply with the drug testing rules. That doesn't mean that it's legal to use in a non-CDL truck. It just means you're highly unlikely to get caught. So prescription or recreational, there is zero permitted use of marijuana in the trucking industry. You will, if you use it and you go for a pre-employment drug test or a random or a post-crash, you will return a positive result. There is no excuse. So then you will be removed from service and have to complete the return to duty process before you are allowed to drive any commercial motor vehicle again. So it's not even a matter of you can pop positive in your tractor trailer and then go drive your non-CDL truck because you don't care. You're prohibited by FMCSA from engaging in interstate commerce until you complete a return to duty process. So Part 40, that's the That's the part of the United States Code that codifies drug and alcohol testing requirements, what are prohibited substances, et cetera, that DOT draws their authority from to do drug and alcohol testing. And so, yeah, you're not allowed to use marijuana in any form when you are in a safety sensitive function in the transportation industry. And that goes for us in trucking, airline pilots, ship captains, railroad workers, anybody that is part of the Department of Transportation drug and alcohol testing program.
And by the way, I think I just got an idea for the next great SNL skit. Have a trucker, a pilot, a seaport captain, and a railroad operator talking about medical marijuana and trucking and lawyers. I think it's going to be huge. But the thing is that since we're talking about lawyers and trucking, by inserting the topic of medical marijuana, I think that it sucks. If you are a medical marijuana user and a trucker, from everything I've heard, you have to pick one.
Correct. And a word of caution, you have to even be careful of the over-the-counter oils and stuff that they say contain zero THC, because it is not an FDA-regulated product. There is no uniform testing standard. This is what my daughter does. She runs one of the largest cannabis analysis labs in the country. They have locations in several states, and she's their chief medical officer. And so she does medical marijuana testing for purity and so on. And you get the stuff we buy at the truck stop, the oil, the pills, etc. And it says zero THC, says safe to use. You would assume it's safe to use if they're selling it over the counter at a truck stop, but it may have enough THC in it that you are going to pop positive on your drug tests. And they don't care if you can prove you bought an over-the-counter supplement. It's still positive. You're still undergoing the entire return to duty process, which involves getting a doctor to sign off. Normally it involves substance abuse counseling. It involves a year of direct observed drug tests every month, which means somebody will watch the urine leave your body and enter the cup. You'll be peeing in a cup in front of somebody. You do not want a positive drug test. It's a career ender. It also, for owner operators, can be a business ender, because a lot of insurance companies, if you have a positive drug test, will pull your insurance policy and you become uninsurable, unhireable for 5 years. It's almost as bad as getting a DUI. You end up at a second chance company that's self-insured that just doesn't really care about this stuff.
Not to mention that it seems to me that folks that are anti-drug and work in testing almost savor the discussion that you can't do it, you don't get to. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but there is no leeway on this at all. This is a zero
Absolutely.
Tolerance.
And it probably does not have to be a zero tolerance, but it is a zero tolerance issue. And it will continue to be a zero tolerance issue for the trucking industry until a time where they develop a reliable field intoxication test like we have for alcohol. Because alcohol is also something we're not supposed to use when we drive, but we can use it on our downtime, provided that we have zero in our system, zero blood alcohol when we go back to driving. We don't consume it within 8 hours of operating a commercial motor vehicle. Reasonable enough restrictions for the transportation industry so you can still have a life and enjoy something recreationally. We can't do that with a product such as marijuana because of the way it metabolizes in your body. The high or the dulling effect of your senses goes away long before the trace of the product leaves your system. So we don't have a reliable intoxication test.
And a good follow-up, Lambo, because that's the thing too, is I appreciate that, and this is part of the problem, is that for folks that are really super anti-drug, like, well, that's just a bunch of potheads that want to party or whatever. It's the rhetoric kills me. So Lambo, thank you. Are there any DOT approved field test procedures for marijuana? I know the answer. I don't.
No, there are no. And in your field test kits you can buy over the counter, like to randomly test your kids or something, they're not even all that accurate. And so you have to be very careful. If you want a highly accurate test, it's going to go to the same labs that process the DOT test. So you have to be very careful that it doesn't go there on a DOT chain of custody, or it will get reported. But if you're worried about something and you want to make sure you're clean before you go in for your DOT test, there are no accurate field tests. You need to wait at least 30 to 45 days, depending upon your weight, fat content, etc., for it to clear your system and for you to be legal to operate a commercial motor vehicle.
I got a field test for you. Why don't you just randomly bring up medical marijuana at a barbecue sometime? Just show up at an event. See, there's your field test. Lambo, I appreciate your questions. How about this one? Do they have the technology to field test?
Not yet. Field test does not exist. This is something my daughter's company is working on because their law enforcement wants this so that they can have reliable operating under the influence charges stick in court in the states that it is legal medically or recreationally. But no, there is no reliable field test. There's a couple of them that are under testing, but there is no reliable test at the moment for instant intoxication.
So right now, yeah, are you on communism, and have you been smoking medical marijuana? I'm pretty sure the communism's going to go better than the medical marijuana at this point. And I know these jokes are terrible, but I have to make them because the world hates pot.
Yes.
Have you seen Reefer Madness? That
yes.
movie is so stupid. You've seen it?
Mm-hmm.
It is terrible. It doesn't make any sense. And anybody who thinks that's reality is probably in charge of this law. Okay, let's go to what's next here. Let's see here. Oh, you love this issue. Good. It's 1220-ish. Pennsylvania tolls. Fighting to toll Pennsylvania bridges.
I lost you, Jay.
Oh, you lost me?
Can't hear you.
Check. All right, I'm still here, but Brian's going to hit some buttons and sprinkle some magic.
There you go.
Okay. All right, so fighting plan to toll Pennsylvania bridges. Brian.
You're putting everything in my backyard today. Because the insurance increase started originally with Congressman Cartwright, who is my district rep. I live in his district, and now tolls in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania DOT is diverting funds to mass transit. It's that simple. They are doing mass transit for Philadelphia and Pittsburgh with money that's collected from the motor fuel tax and highway trust fund. And they couldn't toll Interstate 80 years ago like they wanted to. So they make the Pennsylvania Turnpike divert toll revenue to the general fund for state DOT for road projects. Now they picked 9 key bridges in the state of Pennsylvania that are on existing interstate highways, and they want to toll them. And the tolls, of course, are going to be disproportionately high for trucks versus cars, and out-of-state trucks will pay even more. We're not even positive they have the legal authority to do this because it structures on existing interstate highways, but it's what they're working on. Fortunately, the governor and the legislature in Pennsylvania don't see eye to eye, and so there are several legislators in the Commonwealth that are fighting back against this. They have fought to abolish the authority that even created this plan, and now they're looking to make tolling very restricted in Pennsylvania law, and they're actually looking to the federal legislators to confirm that we do not, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, have the authority to go forward with this plan.
Hey, follow-up question here. Chris asks, okay, Brian, I know you gave out a name. Brian, I know you gave out names of the groups to join. Do you have a list available?
Which groups are you talking about, Chris?
Right.
If you're talking about trade associations, for those of us in the auto transport world, there really are 3 major trade associations. AHA, the Automobile Haulers Association of America, which is geared more towards midsize and large fleets. Then we have IATA, the Independent Automobile Transporter Alliance, which I'm a founding member of. That's Ziggy Keller and John Lerick in that group. And that is for the independent 1-2 truck guy. We do have some big fleets in there. And then you have the latest one, which is going blank on their name, Jay. You just
National
interviewed.
Vehicle
There you go.
Transporters Alliance.
Yes, and I don't know much about them, but whatever fits your business model, that's a trade association you want to join with. It never hurts to join a trucking association. So whatever state you're based out of, join your state trucking association and pick a national association. If you're a small business guy, 1, 2, 3 trucks, go with something like Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association or the Owner Operator Association of America, something like that. If you're a much larger fleet, then you may want to consider the American Trucking Associations. Generally, I don't agree with a lot of their policies, so I'm hesitant to recommend them. But at least join your state trucking association.
Well, and here's what I'll do is let's see, what is it? What does ATA stand for?
America Trucking Associations.
American Trucking Association. Okay, right, trucking.org. What we're going to do, what I'm just doing is I'm putting them all in here because that way we are fair and balanced, right?
Yes.
So we're putting all of that. IATA, NVTA, OOIDA, and ATA.
Yes, with the ATA being the one that caters to the large carriers. Generally, ATA caters to large truckload carriers in the dry van and reefer segment. So really, unless you're doing more than auto transport, they don't have much to offer you. IATA, AHA, NVTA, OOIDA, they have a lot to offer you as a small business trucker.
But what's interesting, and I didn't know this for a while, and I'm trying to find it on their site, the ATA has the ACC, the Automobile
Automobile Carrier Conference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes. And now that focuses more on pre-production, so not finished vehicle logistics, but the guys that move the auto parts into the assembly plants and such. But
Tier 1.
I'm sure
Tier
finished
1
vehicle
suppliers.
logistics guys are in there as well.
Wow, that's very interesting. And then OOIDA has a lot of general education, and I think they have some transporters, but they don't really.
Yeah, so OOIDA is on the side. I'm talking over you today. I'm bad.
Oh, no, I love it, man.
OOIDA does represent some car haulers. They represent the 7 to 8 car high mount contingency the best. Okay. They're actually an ally. I'm working with them on the overhang issue for high mount trucks and how it's not fair. Yes. And so we've had Mike Matuzik on, and Mike and I were on your show together discussing that issue.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're working with the with OOIDA on overhang for high mount automobile transporters. So that's where most of their members that are car haulers, they're running 6, 7, 8 car high mount trailers.
And so anything we can do to help, Chris, thanks so much for asking for that list. That's actually pretty cool going through that. You and or I have interactions with them in some way, and we want to keep that going. Because that, like OOIDA, their landline magazine, I get a lot of news articles from OOIDA. In fact, I sent them a link from our show last week, and they were thankful because we were talking about more of their information. So if you are part of one of those organizations, you've got a update, news information, a member, or through the grapevine, hey, we can tap into DOT compliance on auto transport intel. Please do so.
Yes.
We appreciate it. And that's it, man. We're at 12:30 already.
Yeah. All right, Jay.
Short
thank
and sweet. All right, man. Listen, thank you, Brian, so much. Have a great day. Everybody out there for tuning in, thank you so much. We really appreciate your participation, and we're going to say goodbye and have a great week.
See you later.
All right. See you, everybody. Thank you.